Hello, so for this tutorial, we'll be learning about the input system. Now, Unity has two input systems. Specifically, there is the old one and the new one. So the old one, or called the legacy system, it basically reads whatever input is being pressed at the moment. While the newer one, it offers more features such as being able to enable or disable certain inputs, and as well as subscribing it through events instead of always reading the value instead. So to switch between the two, just go to Edit, Project Settings, and then from here, we can go into player. From player, we could search for input to help us highlight it. And then it's usually under settings. And then here we have it. So right now it's set to both, but there may be scenarios where you're forced to use one. If you were using OpenXR for VR development, you're most likely stuck with the newer system. Meanwhile, if you're using a very old project, you'd most likely only have this as your option, the legacy system. So for this video, we'll talk about how to use the new system. So for this scenario, we'll be moving this capsule around the scene. So then what we have here is our character controller. This will handle the movement. So then our player will be controlling this capsule's movement through passing commands through the character controller. So let's go into that. Now, first, an important distinguish to make is where should our input happen. Now, to help us identify this, it should usually happen in the update. Why? Because update happens every frame, so your input will be a lot more responsive if you read it through here. If you were to do it on fixed update, that'll be a lot slower. You may see input lag. That is because for fixed update, it's time based. It happens on every X seconds intervals. So let's just see that if I run this, we should see that the debug log. So here we're debugging messages. It should be a lot slower on fixed update. So here we have it. So update here is already at 1000. Meanwhile, fixed update here is still at 300. So yeah, we could see that this fixed update, since it happens based on intervals, it's slower. Okay, so let's go into reading inputs. Now, if we were using the old system, how we read inputs is through calling the input class. Then if we wanted to get any sort of input at the moment, so whenever a button is pressed, whenever a mouse is called, we would scan through this list here. Now, if it's mobile, you'd use get touch. But for now, since we'll be doing keyboards, let's get a simple keyboard input. So here we have get key. Then for its function, it's taking a key code. So then the key code is basically just it's an enum of of your keyboard. So here you could pass in specific key names. So there are the F functions, and then as well as joysticks. But we'll get into that maybe next time. So right now, let's just focus on using the space key. If you were using the keypad, if your keyboard has a keypad, which are the buttons on, I think, the left or the right, it's you could switch between those. I think one is keypad, the other one is alpha. So yeah, just switch between those. But for now, let's focus on space. Now, remember this returns a boolean, so it's basically a true or false value whenever it's being pressed at the moment. So let's go. If the key is being pressed, let's debug a message that the key is being pressed. So debug.log, ta-da, and then let's just say space is being pressed, or rather just space. So let's see that. It just okay. So our scene is running. If I press space, we see that it's being called a lot of times, as long as I keep holding the space key down. And then if I let go, it stops, and it repeats whenever I press it. Okay. Now the other scenarios are when the key is pressed down. So this is when it started. So it's being pressed down at the moment when it's being pressed down, and this is when it's released. So it's key up. How this usually happens is if we only wanted to register when it was first when it was only pressed, then this one is when it was held, and this is when you let go of the button. I'm gonna begin pressing the space key, and what happened was started got called once, so this is when I pressed that when we press the button at first, then it keeps going until I let go, it stops, and then it's of course release. So how this was read again was key button, get key down, get key up. Now let's go through working with the axis. So again, mentioned earlier was the input axis. So input.getAxis. So here. Now, this one takes a string. So it could be horizontal or vertical. Now, where do you determine where this value comes from? So the value actually comes from here. Go to Edit, Project Settings, and then your Input Manager. So let's just see that Input Manager. Here we have it. So currently, we see there are values here, or strings. These are the names of it. So you can just grab it from here, and then that'll give you the value. Anyway, so this one it's basically horizontal. It controls how the movement is made. So this is tied. So wait, let me just show the whole thing. So horizontal and vertical is basically your WASD. So here we see there's AD. You could also change this out if you want. And then here's all there's SW. But aside from that, it can also take the arrow keys of your keyboard. So currently there is horizontal and vertical, which is what we're reading. If we wanted to add our own one, so just increase the size to 31, or then just give it a new name. Let's say I want to be able to strafe up and down. I'm gonna put this as the keys Q and E. So there. Let's just save that, close it, and then hop here into our inputs. Now, let's begin on reading one first. So let's see what this value returns first. It returns a float. So we could debug that log, that value. Okay, so right now, if I press A, we see that the value is -1. If I press D, the value is +1. So that's how this happens. It's basically reading whatever key belongs to that axis. So now let's get to working with this through trying to move the character. So let's remove some of this. Now currently our character moves through setting this whatever this value is. So move direction. So let's see here. So our character controller, it's moved based on move direction. Then it's just multiplied by the speed and of course the time to avoid it moving too fast. So let's go through it. So first we just need to be able to assign move direction. So move direction, let's say it's X value. That'll be based on the input.getAxis. And then again, that's horizontal, which you could change for whatever name you want. For our vertical, so this is our up down, or rather our WS key. So this one would actually refer to the Z movement. Now why Z? This is because the object's forward and backward motion is Z. Meanwhile, the Y-axis is actually the up down of the world. So that Y. So we could use that through our newly created axis, which is called strafe. Now this one is related. Now this one is related to our QE key. This one is WS, and this one is AD. So there, pretty simple. So our input, it'll just be placed into that variable. Now, let's see first. Did I set up the scene correctly? Okay, so I was demoing something first earlier, but usually our camera should be here. Place it behind. Then let's run. And then there we go. Oops, that's a bit too fast, but we see it works. So I can move left with A, D with right, then let's put it back in the center. W goes forward, S goes backward, and then Q and E. Oh wait, it's not registering. Let's just return to that project settings, strafe. Oh, here it is. It should be key or button, not joystick. So just change this out. I think we could use Y-axis, should be safe. So see, Q and E. So Q brings it down, E brings it up into the air. So then WAD, and then our forward and motion backward is controlled by WS. So there we go. So that mostly covers it. So now if we were to move this around, you'd actually see there's a problem. This video will be focusing more on the input, how we read input, so this will be covered on another topic. But then if we were to make a full-fledged player controller, we would see that there's something wrong in the scene if we move the camera. So then if I move, I'm currently pressing AD, but we see that it's not actually moving correctly according to the camera. This is because our directions are currently hard-coded, so they're not really set on wherever the camera. It's not relative to wherever the camera is. Rather, it's based on its world direction. So if you were to see that here, this is why it moves differently. So it's based on the world direction. So then if we wanted to fix that in the future, we would need to use camera, that main, that transform, and then use its forward direction, and then multiply that accordingly. But that's for another topic. So next video we'll be talking about how to use the new input system.